What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 tips to be a D1 QB. Let's get started. Now, before we get into this video, fellas, if you're a quarterback and you would like to train with us this offseason, we are coming out to 8 more states for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So check out that very first link in the description below. If you guys are local to Honolulu, Hawaii, Boston, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Ohio, Austin, Texas, Seattle, Washington, Newark, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California. We are coming out to all 8 of those locations for 2-day-long camps, fellas. So if you guys want some more information, learn how you can sign up, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you out there. Let's get back to this video. All right, guys, now one of the first things that Division I coaches look for when they are recruiting a quarterback is arm strength. So how this video is going to go down is I'm going to give you a series of things that quarterbacks should be trying to work on and that they look for at the collegiate level of this position. And then I'm going to give you guys some key specific things you can do to improve those aspects of your game, okay? So now, first thing I want to talk about, like we mentioned, is arm strength, right? And arm strength is one of those things where a lot of people don't put a lot of weight on it that they should. I think a lot of people will say, oh, it's more important to be accurate. And yes, if you can't hit throws, you're not going to be able to play at the next level for sure. 100%, that is 100% correct. However, there are certain throws that they are going to ask you to make at the next level that require arm strength. I'll give you 2 throws right now that every single college program, whether it's Division I all the way to NAIA or JUCO ball, is going to ask you to make. They're going to ask you to throw routes from the opposite hash to the field, right? So like, let's say we're lined up, let's say we're on the right hash, they're going to ask you to make throws where that outside wide receiver is going to be running an 18 back to 15-yard comeback. You have to be able to hit this thing in rhythm on time and drive this ball. And you know what that requires? That requires arm strength. So arm strength is one of the most important elements because, again, if you're that guy who's maybe not an eye test guy, a lot like myself, right? For myself, you know, I'm maybe like, what, 5'9", 5'10" on a good day. I'm not that guy who's going to be, you know, turning a lot of heads at a camp or a showcase, right? I'm going to have to showcase a lot of things on my film, on the field, that are going to get me in front of a college coach. And what I had to do was showcase that I had a strong enough arm. And arm strength is not dictated by your height and your weight, right? Because, and again, listen, if you're 6'4", 200-something pounds, probably naturally going to have a stronger arm than a guy who's my size. However, if you have flawed mechanics, if you maybe don't have a strong core, you don't have a strong base, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you can rip the ball downfield. I've seen plenty of guys who are 6'2" plus that have weak arms because they simply have wrong mechanics. They don't know how to create force with their lower half, and they're not exercising correctly in the gym. And that is what I want to talk to you about next. Because yes, if you're familiar with this page, you've heard me talk a million times about, you know, throwing sequence, your base, you being able to rotate with your hips, all of that good stuff, right? And all of that stuff definitely matters. However, if you're eventually, if you have the right mechanical motion, you're going to get capped out with your arm strength. It's going to be like, okay, I have a strong arm. How can I get to that next level? How can I get to that Division I level where that ball shoots off my hands? And in the gym, you need to be working on your core and your legs. A lot of people think arm strength comes from your arm, right? I'm going to muscle the ball there. I'm going to try to throw as hard as I can. Guys, that's not what strengthens your arm. Strengthening your arm strengthens your legs and it strengthens your core. That's what's going to get the ball to have more distance and more pop on it. Because when you're in your base and you're ready to throw, like you're trying to transfer weight from your back leg, you're trying to rotate through with your hips. So all that power from your lower half is what you should be working on. So doing squats, doing any kind of like Russian twist, any type of core work, that is going to directly translate to on the field. So one of the first things that they're going to look for in a college quarterback, because let me give you some insight too on the recruiting process. If you're a quarterback, and let's say you're maybe a sophomore or junior, you're already this year, you've probably seen it. There's something called the contact period, right? So a contact period is when college coaches will come to schools, they'll visit prospects, and sometimes they'll ask quarterbacks to throw for them. You know what one of the first throws that they'll ask you to do? Throw a 10-yard timing out to your backside. So if you're a righty, that's to the left from the opposite hash. Can you make that throw? And you know what they're looking for? Not necessarily timing, not necessarily accuracy. Do you have the arm strength to play at that Division I level? And if you do, and you can hit those types of throws, and that's one of the things that you could check off the list. Now we're going to get into a few more things that D1 coaches will look for. All right, guys, so the second thing that I want to talk to you about is height and weight. Now, I'd be doing you a disservice if I told you that, oh, your height doesn't matter. It's, you know, it's all about how you can play on the field. And while that is true, and yes, there comes a point where, you know, if you're like 5'10", but you're the best quarterback in the country, like if any of you don't believe what I'm saying, look at Kyler Murray's high school highlight tape at Allen High School in Texas. One of the best highlight tapes I have ever seen from a high school quarterback. And he's not obviously a very big guy, but he's probably the most highly recruited quarterback, probably ever to come out of Texas. I think that's a fair argument. One of the best high school quarterbacks ever. And look where he's at now. He's playing in the NFL. So It's definitely possible, but I would be lying to you if I said that college coaches don't care about your height, because they do care about your height. Your weight is something they do not care about, and we're going to get into that in the later part of this clip. But your height is one of those things that you cannot control. If you're 5'10" and both your parents are like, let's say they're 5'8", your mom's like 5'3", whatever it is, like, you're probably done growing, and maybe you'll grow. I've seen plenty of people grow to be 6 foot with those types of genetics, and doctors will say, oh, you're not going to grow, and then they'll grow. There are always stories like that, but your height is not something you control, so that's not something that you should worry about. Yes, it's not going to help you if you're short get in front of a lot of coaches. Like if you're at a camp, let's say you got 20 other quarterbacks that you're working with and you're 5'8", you're probably not going to turn heads. What turns heads is a guy who's 6'2" plus, can rip the ball, he has arm strength, but that doesn't guarantee that he can play. Again, college coaches for football, they're not recruiting basketball players. They're recruiting football players. They want the best football players on their team. So if you're 5'10" and you could absolutely rip, that is what you should be focused on. You should be focusing on showing those skills on film, because again, height and weight's important. Weight is not so much, like I said, I will talk about it, but height, you cannot control it. So why worry about it? Worry about the things that you can control, and those are going to be the rest of the topics that we will cover in this video. Now, let's talk about weight. Weight is one of those things that a lot of people have the wrong information on. A lot of people think, oh, I got to be a certain number, I got to weigh this much, or else a coach isn't going to be able to look at me, or he's not going to care about me. That's not the case. You see it all the dang time. Quarterbacks are real skinny, but they can flat out rip the ball. When you get to college, and I'll give you some insight from a guy who has college experience, myself, they will put weight on you when you get there. I think anybody that has ever played college sports knows that colleges will put weight on you. So if let's say you're 6'2", but you're like 170 pounds, but you're just a baller, you could flat out rip the ball. What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, you're a really good football player. That's something that we can't coach a whole lot of. Like when you get to that college level, they kind of already expect you to have it together, especially the D1 level. But what we can do? We could put some weight on you because we got one of the best strength and conditioning coaches. We have some of the best facilities there are. And trust me, they will put weight on you. It sucks. They have you eating a lot of calories, but they will put weight on you. So again, weight, yes, you want to be as big and as athletic as possible, but height, can't control, don't worry about it. Weight, it's not as important as you think. All right, guys, so the next thing that I want to talk about here is extend playability, and that is what Division I college coaches will look for in their guys. So you see it all the time. What's going to get you recruited as a quarterback is going to be your highlight tape, right? Like anybody, I'm going to tell you this right now, anybody, we have been to a bunch of states across the country, have seen a lot of quarterbacks, have worked with a lot of quarterbacks, and anybody can look good in t-shirt and shorts. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a guy come out to a workout or come out to a camp and be like, man, that guy's a baller. And then when you see him on tape, you see him on film, he's not going to actually perform as well as you think he would, because it's different when the pads come on. They want to see you make plays on film. They want to see what you can do in a live game situation. So when you're in that live game situation, they want to see guys who could extend the play. So extending the play is like, you're in the pocket, you're getting some pressure, you buy some time, you hit a throw off platform, you make a guy miss, you're on the run, you hit a throw on the run. Those are extending the plays. Oftentimes what quarterbacks will put on their highlight tape, and I made the same types of mistakes as you guys did as well, they'll just put touchdowns on their highlight tape, right? Like they'll just catch the ball, they'll throw a fade ball, it'll be complete, the receiver's wide open, and yeah, it's great, you threw a touchdown, maybe you threw 30 touchdowns on the year, a few thousand yards, whatever, that's great. But you gotta understand how many high school football quarterbacks there are across the country that do not end up playing college football because they're doing what the colleges expect them to do, or what their high school program expects them to do. They expect you to hit a wide open fade. They expect you to throw a slant to a wide open receiver for a touchdown. What they don't expect you to do is make a guy miss, get out on the run and hit a throw, step up in the pocket while you're getting hit, deliver a throw. Those are the plays that they want to see on tape, and those are the plays that get you recruited to play at that next level, right? I think one of the best attributes I had as a player, and I don't like talking about myself a whole lot as a player, but something that helped me stand out was I was going to sit in that pocket and I was going to throw and take hits because I knew I didn't pass the eye test. I knew I didn't weigh a lot. I was decently fast, but what got me noticed by a lot of people was that I would sit in the pocket, throw, and would take hits, and those are those types of plays that they are going to want to see on film. So those are the plays that you have to try to work on the absolute best you can. So how do you actually work on that? What should you actually do? So when you're training, t-shirt and short environment, kind of an easier environment, try to make yourself uncomfortable. And what I mean by uncomfortable is like if you're throwing routes, like let's say you got 5 receivers out here working with you, and you're throwing posts, drops, right? So maybe you throw the first two off of just a 3-step drop and throw, and then the next two you drop back, you maybe take a step back and throw off platform, just so you get more comfortable throwing from uncomfortable situations. Guys, especially if you're at the high school level, you should not just be throwing the route tree. Yes, you got to work on those things. Yes, you got to work on your mechanics, but you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because those uncomfortable situations is probably 90% of the plays in high school. If I'm being honest, like, no offense if you're an offensive lineman watching this, but usually high school offensive line are not that great, right? So you're probably gonna have to be buying some time, getting out of the pocket, throwing on the move. That's okay. That is what we want, but you have to train those situations in the offseason, so in an actual live game setting, we are comfortable making those plays. All right, guys, so the next thing that a Division I college coach is going to look for in a quarterback is accuracy. So they're going to want to see that you be able to put the ball on the money consistently. Now, a lot of people get so frustrated when they train, when they work out, because, oh, you know, the ball's not spinning the greatest for me, but the ball's on the money, and that's all that they care about, if I'm being honest. They care about arm strength. Is the ball on the money? Can you extend the play? And then we talked a little bit about that height and weight thing earlier in this video. So accuracy is super, super important. You have to be able to showcase that when you're in an environment. Like, this is a good test for you guys to do. When you guys, this is something that we would do whenever I trained, whenever we were playing high school ball, anytime it was a situation where there was no defense, so no 7-on-7, none of that, no defense, t-shirt and shorts or fully padded, but no defense, we tried to be perfect. That means no football should hit the ground, no football should hit the grass. Every single thing is a completion when it's t-shirt and shorts and in that environment. And if you want to be able to play at that high level, that Division I level, that's what's expected of you. They do not want you to miss, and again, we get it. Sometimes you miss, sometimes things like that happen, but playing at that high of a level, t-shirt and shorts, you should be perfect. That is what they expect out of you. So, what can you do to work on that? So, to work on your accuracy, you have to focus on having a disciplined front side with your mechanics. So anytime that you're playing catch with receivers, throwing routes, we're in that t-shirt, shorts, perfect environment that we were trying to replicate, you gotta think about two things. Number one, when you release the ball, you wanna try to stay level with your shoulders. So like I'm throwing to over here to the right side of the field, when I release the ball, I don't wanna rip my shoulders open and let my arm fly outside my frame, because that's where I start losing this thing right or losing this thing across my body left. So let's focus on being level. And what I don't want to do is take my elbow and pull down. That is what will make my release high, and I'll be missing high and low. So let's say I'm throwing off to the right. I don't want to take that elbow and pull for power, because that pushes my release up, and that's when I'll lose that thing high or come down and miss low. So those two key things, when you guys throw, keep that hand by that face like you're eating a sandwich, keep those shoulders level so your release can stay inside your frame, and all it is just where you flick that wrist for extension, and that is ultimately what leads to accuracy. So fellas, being accurate is one of those key important things that a Division I coach will look for when recruiting a prospect. All right, guys, so the next thing that a Division I college coach will look for in a quarterback is football IQ. So obviously when you get to that next level, you know, in high school, you could probably get away with in some states and some scenarios where your quarterback, like if you're a dual threat guy, you're the most athletic guy on the field, right? Sometimes you can get away with that. Now at the next level, especially Division I level, when you're playing up against some of the best athletes in the country, you can't just rely on your athleticism. You have to beat guys with the ball, you have to outsmart defenses, so having a high football IQ, knowing how to read defenses and knowing how to read coverages is one of the best ways that you could stand out and have success at that next level. So reading defenses, like, it comes down to having a good, something we call a pre-snap process. So a pre-snap process is being able to identify certain defenders on the field, knowing what to look for, which will dictate the coverage, right? So you come up, you're about to snap the ball, you identify where the mic is, you identify the front, you ID the safeties, the corners. That's like the pre-snap process. You need like a checklist to go through. And that is going to come from studying film. So if you're that quarterback that just comes out to practice and only watches film with your team, not a Division I guy. That's just not how it is. You have to do the work on your own. You have to study film on your own to familiarize yourself with those different concepts. Now, if you want some stuff that I can send over to you that we offer to help you out with reading defenses, just post that in the comment section below. I'd be happy to send you over that information, which will help you increase your football IQ. But to increase your football IQ, you got to get in the film room. You got to get familiar with coverages. You got to know what plays work against certain coverages. You should be meeting with your offensive coordinator at least 1 to 2 times a week during the off season, and every day during the season to hone in on those IQ skills. Because if you can read a defense, you can execute RPO situations, you get the ball out of your hands, that helps you avoid hits, and that's another thing that will make you stand out if maybe you're not that typical eye test player. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you. And again, if you would like to come out and train with us in 8 different states this offseason, fellas, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season QB and wide receiver camps. Again, very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.